Folks, good morning. Welcome back. Today I am using the White Newman Tarot. Look like this on the back. And I'm about to put in reversals. And I will shuffle until Spirit asks me to stop, and at that point we will listen to the message that Spirit wishes to give us about present energies, about possible future energies, whatever Spirit would like to say today. Whoa! Just had a bunch spill out. So, Spirit's asking me to take from the top, and then we'll take from the bottom here in just a second. The first card is the Seven of Wands. And it's interesting. There's a pair of men fighting, male entities fighting, but there are also 5 other wands that are also pointed up from the bottom. Now, which side that they're trying to attack or protect is completely up to the viewer. Fiery energy is what's going on right here, and 2 of Cups. Now, I'm getting Republican and Democrat kind of feels here. The other day, I did just upload a video on the Democrats' deliberate losing strategies over the past few years, if not couple of decades. And I'm wondering if there won't be a weird combination of both unity. You know what I just heard is two sides of the same coin. And I've been feeling that now for a number of years, to be quite honest. Before I started reading for this channel, I kind of started to see how both parties kind of ran along the same energies, still served the same billionaires, okay? But right here, we've got like some real fights coming up, and I know that that's probably not something that should be too terribly surprising. I do feel like it's going to get more heated, and I wonder, with this red wand energy, if there isn't going to be an overpowering of Democrats. And I'm getting from Spirit that there is most likely going to be an overpowering of Democrat politicians, pushing them aside in order to reveal and push forward the Republican agenda fully and completely without control from Democrat parties. But above all, remember that these are 2 sides of one coin, that they both serve the billionaire class, and that they pretty much forget or pay lip service to serving the working class, the middle class, civilians, everyday people. They've forsaken those people, both parties have. Here's the Hierophant. This is a path that I'm going to be careful with words here, but I'm also going to say what Spirit wants me to say. Being guided by God, or deities, or ancestors, or the universe. That this is a fight that, in a sense, should not have happened, but for a long time, this is a fight that's been brewing. Since I was a young teenager, when Pluto was in Sagittarius, this is a fight of religious extremism, something that I would see associated with this particular card. Once again, I'm getting the fuck around and find out energy. I'm getting the be careful what you wish for, you just might get it kind of energy. So, this is going, I hate to do the whole party this, party that, but conservative, extremist political Christians, Republicans, are going to be getting what they wished for here, but it's going to be overpowering for a lot of everyday people. And the people who are in charge of pushing Democrats, liberals, progressives to the side are not going to be feeling the pain as much as civilians, everyday people will be. They're going to get to fly above, and I am hoping that this is part of what will bring in the true energy of Pluto in Aquarius, where it becomes about the collective, where it becomes about rebellion in favor of better systems that benefit the collective and not so much the authoritarian oligarchy, what you would see associated with Pluto and Capricorn. Look at that. I'm doing a 3x3 spread. This appears on top, or I should say 7 of Wands appears on top. 10 of Swords appears on bottom. A backstabbing, a betrayal, sabotage, if you will. I've had a friend who described being deeply afraid that Democrat politicians were going to be arrested for no apparent reason, and I see this coming up quite possibly, if the energies don't change, I see this coming up in the future. There is going to be a fight. There's going to be a push for total, absolute control from the Republican side, and they're going to get what they wanted. Don't forget that they are two sides of the same coin, though. They don't want you to know that. They sure as fuck don't want you to know that. But people who are conscious, who are aware, who push aside their fear to see the situation for what it truly is, will perceive that. I'm not saying that it's easy to perceive it, but it's there. A loss of faith, a lack of healing, a deep need of healing, but not being able to find it. Delayed healing. This is going to hurt. I've been saying this now for several videos. I wish I had better news for me, for y'all. But this particular division is one that will not be healed for a very long time. This is a rift that will go so deep that it will cut most everyday people down to the quick, and it will make any kind of thought of unity very, very difficult. Once again, if you are a conscious individual who is able to see the mess for what it is, then you might be able to find some kind of unity with some people. But keep in mind that these people have no problem being backstabbers. Paying lip service to community and working together for a common good, and then backstabbing the people that they consider to be weak. Remember that these people tend to mistake kindness for weakness. Be cautious of the people that you pull together a community with. You will need to be in a community in order to get through these next couple of years, in order to get through it without doing harm to yourself. Okay? We have the King of Swords in reverse. Now this is interesting. When I did that reading for the Democrats, the first card that came out in the Terra Mucha deck, a completely different deck, was the King of Swords in reverse. From a certain point of view, the universe, God, is allowing these corrupt politicians to wreak havoc, because this is what the nation must learn. That these people are not to be trusted, that they are not to be looked up to, that there are very, very few role models amongst the politicians that are elected to positions of leadership, authority in our particular country. And that could be honestly said for just about any country at all. That there are very few politicians who are genuinely in it because they want to serve the people, and not because they want power and control and money and everything that comes alongside, all the accolades that come alongside all those nice things. It's very, very rare. And the universe is allowing these corrupt politicians to run amok and destroy the democratic republic that we have in order to cause the collective to grow the fuck up. Because there is a tremendous amount of spiritual, emotional, and mental immaturity in those who live in the United States. I'm not saying all, by any means at all. In fact, if you are conscious, you know how painful it is to live in the United States and to live amongst sleeping people who deliberately stay asleep because they don't want to face the realities that are amongst them. It's painful. I will tell you this from personal experience. It sucks. There's a lack of community. There's isolation in having to look at everything, see the puppet strings being pulled and not being able to do anything with it, because One person is not going to affect that much. If the collective doesn't want to see the puppet strings being pulled, they will not see it. But this, I feel, is the universe finally pulling the curtain aside and saying, look at how things are. This is who you've elected. People who think for themselves, speak for themselves, and are deeply, utterly selfish, unconscious people who just feed off of power. Mental zombies. People who just do because that's just what you do and they don't think about it. These are also people who cause a great deal of destruction. This is not a page of swords. This is the king of swords. This is the last of the swords suite. This is someone who has the authority to do a lot of damage, and the universe is saying, go ham, so that the collective will be forced to grow up. Now, it's one thing for me to say forced to grow up. It's another thing entirely to have to feel the maturation process. I don't envy most people having to go through these particular circumstances. I absolutely feel horrible for the people who are awake, who are conscious, who see the puppet strings being pulled. This is going to be agony for a lot of those people, and the most I can do is pray that those people get swept out of the way into a safe place where they can grow and thrive and get the things that they've been waiting for, wanting for so long, but haven't been able to have because the collective is unconscious right now. Pluto in Aquarius has the potential to wake those people up, but they have to choose to wake up and not just operate blindly anymore. That has to be a choice. Pluto in Aquarius can set the stage for it, but we have free will. We have free choice. We can stay awake, we can be awake or stay awake, or we can go back to sleep, because the circumstances that we're about to face are just going to be very rough. We have here the Queen of Wands in reverse, above the Ten of Swords and above the Seven of Wands. It's not just the King of Swords who is air and fire energy. It's also going to be fire and water energy. There are going to be people who don't just use their words to do real damage. There are going to be people who use emotion, use appeals of emotion towards the public falsely in order to get them to do things that normally they wouldn't do. And that could quite mean that there are politicians in place who spur violence amongst the collective to further their agenda, to finally put all kinds of swords. There's, honestly, this particular entity in the Ten of Swords just needs one sword to be dead. They don't need 10. That's overkill. But these politicians want overkill. The cruelty is the point, is something that you're going to be hearing and seeing and feeling over the next few years, because these people see an opportunity to grab total, complete power. It will corrupt them. It has already corrupted them, and they're going to not stop until all 10 swords, so to speak, they feel that all 10 swords are in their enemy, and their enemy is never going to be able to rise again, ostensibly, okay? Now, just because the universe is allowing this particular side to do as they want, to grab the power and hurt the collective as much as they want, doesn't mean that they are going to go without consequence here. The universe is giving them all the rope they need to properly hang themselves now and in the future. That's still going to hurt you. That's still going to hurt the collective. And it's going to be conscious people who realize how much it hurts, even if they voted Republican in the past. Even if they are conservative, were conservative, extremist political Christians in the past, there's still the opportunity for them to wake up and change. We have the Hermit, and it's in reverse. This Queen of Wands energy, this fire and water energy is going to find a way to really isolate people and keep them from growing. The moose in this particular hermit card is on its way to becoming a fully awakened spirit animal. But before he can pass out of the home that he was in order to learn to become a spirit animal, he has to lose his antlers. He cannot pass through that door. It blocks him as long as his antlers keep him from passing through the door. Whether he chooses to lose those antlers, whether people choose to let go of the biases that have been built into them by all the lies, by the culture war used to distract people from the reality that our politicians have been serving the billionaire class now for a long time. As long as they can keep the attention off of them, that's when people can continue to stay unconscious, choose not to heal themselves, and choose not to see how both sides of the political spectrum are just two sides of one coin. We all need less expensive groceries, for instance. We need the trade from our neighbors, from Mexico, from Canada. We need trade, good, free trade from our neighbors in order to thrive. And right now, these particular politicians are just building divisions, keeping people, encouraging unconsciousness, because as long as people aren't aware and are asleep, they don't make changes, they don't heal, and they don't see the situation for what it really is. Unconscious members of the collective are dangerous, but our politicians are the ones who are spurring this behavior on. This is absolutely an extension of the reading I did in the video called Democrats Losing Strategy, or I don't remember the exact title, but if it's of interest to you, I do encourage you to look at it. We've got the Empress. This is on top of the King of Swords in reverse, and on top of the Hierophant. Now this is interesting. We have two female entities surrounding a masculine entity. The phrase, the future is female, comes to mind, but specifically what this points to is that allowing the more feminine aspects of all of us, and we do have, regardless of gender identity, we all have feminine aspects within ourselves that must be nourished and grown in order for us to be emotionally, mentally, spiritually mature, and also have a mature understanding of politics. I'll say for Texas at least, that there's a deep lack of maturity when it comes to politics. People are obsessed with it, and they're willing to scream about stuff that they don't know that much about, and then they're forced to back down in the face of someone who does know plenty about what they're talking about. A willing to hang back and listen and be receptive to the energies that the universe wants to give us will bring about an awareness of who we are in the face of authoritarian figures seen right here in the King of Swords, who we are really, and that we don't need them in order to save ourselves, in order to bring about a community that we love and appreciate and enjoy being in. But first, we must nourish ourselves. And remember that the Empress is the total sum of the Queen of Swords, the Queen of Pentacles, the Queen of Wands, and the Queen of Cups. She is all of the above, all in one. And that's going to be hard for a lot of people. And yet, being deeply disappointed in our politicians, seen here in the King of Swords in reverse, is part of what can bring about that maturity. But remember, once again, people can make the choice to not be mature, to not be awake, to continue to stay asleep at the wheel, because for a lot of people, it might feel easier to be asleep at the wheel, even if it is harmful to them in the long run. In the short term, they may say, I don't want to see this. I don't want to be involved. I want to look at the bright side of stuff. And they choose only to look at the bright side of stuff instead of looking at the reality of the situation. Okay? Excuse my hairs. It's distracting to me. We have here the Knight of Swords. Now, normally the Knight of Swords is pictured riding very swiftly. This is still air on air energy, so this is about thinking very carefully before we speak. This particular rider is not moving anywhere very quickly, but they are thinking before they go riding someplace. They're thinking before they actually use their sword on somebody. It's upheld, but they're not using it on anybody. They're not rushing towards anything either. So there's that idea of think before you speak, especially during these very trying times. Aquarius, with Pluto in Aquarius, is a very airy kind of energy along these kinds of same lines. So it may encourage you, all this pressure may encourage you or somebody else to say something that they'll regret later. If someone says that kind of thing to you, that's the time to back off and maybe, if not give grace to that particular individual, then say that you're not the kind of person that I need to be around. This is definitely the time to draw lines in the sand. I feel like the Hierophant here above the King of Swords in reverse is kind of an indication to us that we are meant to draw lines in the sand. Obviously, with the guidance of our ancestors, our deities, with the universe, when the universe indicates to us that we are meant to put up a barrier between us and some certain harmful people, then you must do it, even if it's members of your own family, even if it's a friend that you've had for many decades. It's time to draw lines in the sand to protect you, to protect your light, and to protect others that you may come in contact with who need your protection because they're not in a position, in some way or another, they're not in a position to protect themselves. We've got the Four of Pentacles, and it's in the upright position. So this is about not just thinking carefully before we say something. It's also about guarding the resources that we will be blessed with in order to get through these next few years. Now, it's not much, the Four of Pentacles. It could be more. It's definitely not the Ten of Pentacles. But it is just enough to get something to grow for us, because that's really all we need. Now, with the Four of Pentacles, that's not just about money. That's about resources that make our lives comfortable. So think carefully before you say stuff and guard the resources that make you and the people that you trust and love, make them comfortable. Make yourself comfortable, and don't just waste them willy-nilly, okay? This can be about money if you want to say it that way, if you want to think of it that way. So this may be about not going out to eat as often. If you do, I understand that some of you are in poverty and going out to eat, like what? This may be about not taking vacations, or taking one less or two fewer vacations, for instance. This is about guarding your money because you don't know what's going to happen, what you're going to need to buy later on in order to survive. I believe I've said in another video that there's the real risk that we could see groceries become way more expensive than they are now. And I'm exaggerating, but I thought I remembered saying in another video that there's a risk of having like $60 for a loaf of bread. I really hope I'm exaggerating with that. But in case I'm not, be careful about how you spend. Think carefully about how you spend before you go and do it. Okay? Then we've got the Page of Wands. It's time for you to start growing into someone new who knows when to take action, when to stay seated. This is the Page of Wands. If you're not accustomed to acting in a particular way, this is the time to start. Wands is also about spiritual energy, so if you haven't started down a genuine spiritual path that you are meant to take, this is your indication to do it. Don't just guard your resources. Don't just think carefully before you spend your money or your resources. Don't just think carefully before you speak. Learn to start acting a new way. If that's taking a new spiritual path, wonderful. If that's you becoming a new person to protect more vulnerable members of your community, you need to do that. This is the time to start now while things are still, relatively speaking, easy, because later on it's going to be a whole lot more difficult. Start your personal growth journey now. Do the hard spiritual work, the hard shadow work now. Why do you behave the way that you do when there's a particular trigger that comes your way? Why does it trigger you if you've not already started that work? Therapy is going to be fantastic for you if you are someone who vibes well with therapy. So I'm going to take just a few cards from the bottom. We have the Six of Wands in reverse. There's nothing to celebrate here when it comes to old energies associated with Pluto and Capricorn. What Pluto and Capricorn did is that it exposed the structures that keep us chained up and that gave so much power and money and resources to billionaires who already had more than enough, more than even the slightly less wealthy. There's nothing to celebrate here. Instead, find a way to celebrate the small victories that you can. Find ways to be grateful for the things, even if you're going through hell on earth, there is still stuff to be grateful for. Two of Wands, you've got a choice in how you're going to behave. So if there's nothing to celebrate, if winning is not an option, you need to ask yourself, what really matters? And based on that, you need to make a choice on who you're going to be, what direction you're going to take. This is the two paths. You can go this direction or you can go that direction. You can stay asleep or you can wake up if you haven't already. You can become conscious. You can start to allow your ego to dissolve. The ego keeps us separate from others because it puts up walls. There is such a thing as a personal ego and as a collective ego. This is the time to let go of all ego, collective and personal. Last and not least, we've got Judgment. For both the United States and for us, the personal, it is Judgment Day. We're coming up on it. If it's going to be different for every individual, okay? But as a collective, we've got Judgment Day coming up. Pluto in Aquarius marked Judgment era, the Judgment era for the United States, because this is the Pluto return for the United States. The last time Pluto was in Aquarius is about the time that the United States was founded as a nation. As a nation for white people, I should say. Colonizers and all that, okay? So keep that in mind. Judgment is asking the United States, what did you do in the past 250 years that is worthy of attention? Worthy of praise? Not much. You've been living off the backs of slaves. You've been sucking money and resources away from those who need it the most. Then Judgment was going to find a way to punish. Let me rearrange them and how they are laid out for me. Judgment is going to find a way to make the United States as a whole feel the pain that the judgment that it's been accumulating, the karmic debt that it's been accumulating now for centuries, for the past 250 years, you might say. This is going to be rough, but trust your guides, trust your ancestors, your deities, trust the universe to guide you through this rough time. And when you find the people that you're meant to be with, who love you, who you love, and want to take care of more than anything, trust them too. And that might be really hard for some people. You may have learned to not trust people. This is the time to wake up from that. Here with the Page of Wands. Trusting others when you've been hurt many times over is an act of resistance. And that's going to be hard. I respect what you've gone through. I respect what you're about to go through. And if you're going through it now, I respect what you're going through right now. So I'm going to put the White Newman Tarot to the side, and I'm going to pull from the Uncertain Oracle by Cedar McLeod from the Numinous Spirit Press. Just 3 cards, and I'm going to shuffle once again until Spirit asks me to stop. Take from the bottom. We've got Canyon. Beautiful card. Canyon is going through, I heard, the Valley of the Shadow of Death. even in the valley of the shadow of death, you will not forsake me. The universe is saying, you are not alone. With the star in reverse, you're going to feel like it. Just because you have clouds covering the stars doesn't mean that they're not still there. You've got name. Don't forget the sacred name that you've been given by the universe. It may not be the name that you go by in the everyday circumstances, okay? You've got a name that the universe calls you. You need to learn it. This is the time for you to go down a spiritual path if you haven't already. Look at this. It says action. Literally, take action. If you've been sitting because you're too scared of the consequences of rebelling against resisting, this is the time to change that. I don't want to lie to you. There will be some martyrs for the cause of the collective, for the cause of healing and resistance. There will be martyrs. I hope to God that it's none of the people watching this video. I hope that it's none of my subscribers either. But if it is, the universe will bless you infinitely. We're talking about not even a karmic debt, but a divine blessing into the next lifetimes, not just the next lifetime. This is a heavy reading. I feel like a whole lot of the readings that I've been doing lately are heavy. I guess that's just the times, dude. I'm not here to fearmonger. I'm here to give you warnings, because forewarned is forearmed. Please don't run away from the messages that the universe gives you from me or from anyone else. You're meant to hear them. Please look at all sides of an issue. Please don't be lied to by the politicians that are in place. Please stop looking for people who are going to save you, and instead become the person who saves yourself and others who are most vulnerable. And that's all from me. Please take care.